I'm Mary. While I was working in my upstairs room, I suddenly heard a noise from the living room downstairs. Could it be a burglar? Ready to call for help at any moment, I gripped my cell phone and went to check the living room. There, I found my sister-in-law, Jennifer. Jennifer? I called out, surprised. Oh, Mary, you're here, Jennifer said, turning around at the sound of my voice. You scared me, sneaking in like that. Well, this is William's family home, so it's practically my home too, she added with a hint of annoyance. William is my brother. I understood her point, but isn't it rude to enter someone's house without permission? I felt irked, but Jennifer seemed displeased with my reaction. Approaching me, she said, instead of that, you're home again today? Well, having someone like you as a sister-in-law is really the worst, she continued, her tone biting. Excuse me, what do you mean by that? I asked, confused. Are you still clueless? I'm saying it's embarrassing to be single and unemployed, Jennifer mocked. I couldn't deny being single, but the unemployment part was a misunderstanding. I do work, even if it's from home. I am working, I retorted quickly. Yeah, a home security guard, right? She sneered. That's not it, Whatever, it's embarrassing and a nuisance, so just leave. I had no choice but to stay silent. Jennifer had always been this way since our first meeting. Years ago, William brought her home, introducing her as the woman he wanted to marry. I didn't intend to meet Jennifer then, not because I opposed the marriage, but because I was a recluse. My reclusiveness began in high school due to my inability to gauge social distances. Making friends was difficult, leading me to withdraw from school and eventually becoming a recluse. But neither my parents nor William blamed me. It's okay if you don't want to go to school, my dad, Robert, would say. Maybe you'll find what you want to do if you take your time. William encouraged me. My mom, Ashley, silently supported me. Thanks to them, I could deeply consider my future. I couldn't go outside, but maybe there was something I could do from my room. With that thought, I decided to see what I could do with a computer. In this era, as long as you have an internet connection, anything is possible. There are ways to work other than going to an office. I'll start with what I can do alone. After that, I began to explore various possibilities. With little knowledge or skill, there wasn't much I could do. I felt like I couldn't do anything. During such a low moment, William came to me with an idea. Mary, you play games, right? Games? A little, I guess. How about trying to be a game tester? William brought me a job opportunity as a game tester. The task was to check whether pre-release games worked properly. It didn't require any special skills, just motivation and perseverance. I'd like to try that, I answered immediately. And so, I began working as a tester. This job suited me perfectly. I could work diligently on my own, and reporting was as simple as sending emails. Even for someone like me who struggled with social interaction, this was manageable. As I worked, I realized something. If I knew more about programming, maybe I could even suggest fixes. That's how I started to get interested in programming. But programming requires a lot of learning. Usually, people study at vocational schools. However, it's not necessary to attend such schools. There are online courses, and you can also study independently. It's about having the will, isn't it? I used the internet to its fullest to start learning programming. I explored various sites, accumulating the necessary knowledge. Whenever I didn't understand something, I'd ask someone online and strangers would kindly respond. Knowing that someone was listening and helping made me happy. Gradually, I found friends who were also studying programming. We interacted online, and I started sharing personal things with them. Initially, our interaction was just through text, but it eventually led to voice calls and finally meeting in person. I was nervous, of course. Memories of my bitter high school days resurfaced. But I was no longer the high school student. I dressed up a bit and went to the meeting place where several men and women my age were present. I timidly approached them, but we hit it off quickly. It was no different from our online interactions. The only difference was whether they were behind a screen or in front of me. Feeling reassured, I got lost in conversation. Then someone suggested, let's start a business. I was anxious, but I thought I could work if it was with these people. I agreed immediately. That's how I started a company with friends I met online. Some had experience in sales, others had worked in regular companies. With such a diverse group, we faced no major issues in starting our business. Mary, just do what you can, they told me, and I felt a weight lift off my shoulders. I committed to giving my best in what I could do. Then a month later, I received my first paycheck. It was totally different from the earnings I had ever made before. Working as a tester, I received my first salary as a full-time employee. For someone who had given up in high school, this was a huge deal. Now, I felt like everyone else. Until then, I had lived in a world isolated from society, but this made me feel like part of the community. With my first salary, I thanked my parents and William, showing my gratitude for not giving up on me when I became a recluse. My parents were happy, and so was William. Their smiles motivated me to work even harder. The company grew rapidly, and my salary increased significantly. However, I didn't have much to spend it on. Most of my work was done from home, so I didn't need things like suits for commuting. The only place I'd occasionally go was the nearby grocery store. Since my work was almost like a hobby, I had virtually no use for money. Mom, what should I do? Should I just save it? Well, saving is good, but sometimes it's okay to spend boldly, she replied. After much thought, I decided to buy something significant, a house. My workplace was my room, so it needed to be a place where I could relax and concentrate on work. In an apartment, you have to be mindful of neighbors, so a detached house seemed like a better option. I'll buy a house with land. It was quite a bold idea, even for me, but at that time, I didn't think too deeply about it. So, I bought a detached house with land. Robert and William were surprised, but they're not the kind of people to oppose what I do. They accepted it graciously. Only Mom seemed worried. I shouldn't have said anything. Mom regretted her words. It's okay. I wanted to buy it really. If that's the case, then it's fine, she conceded. Her regret might not have completely vanished, but that changed instantly when we moved in. This kitchen is so user-friendly. Mom, Ashley, was overjoyed with the state-of-the-art kitchen. In that moment, I felt glad I had bought the house. Dad, Robert, also expressed his satisfaction. It's close to the company, and having a parking space is convenient. William spoke to me earnestly. I'm proud to see you all grown up, Mary. It's because you introduced me to the tester job, I replied. But without your efforts, this wouldn't have happened. You're amazing, Mary. Thank you. I owed so much to William. That's why when I heard about William's fiancée coming, I decided not to meet her. I thought it would be better to pretend I didn't exist so William wouldn't be judged because of me. But William thought differently. Mary is my proud sister. I want you to greet the woman who's going to be your sister-in-law, he insisted. Okay, I understand, I agreed, unable to refuse his words, so I decided to meet Jennifer. Nice to meet you, I'm Jennifer. My first impression of her was that she liked brands. Apparently, she worked at a bank and her clothes and accessories were all branded. Even her perfume was from a top brand. However, she spoke elegantly and seemed considerate. My parents quickly took a liking to her and the family meeting went smoothly. Well, I have work to do, I said, trying to leave early. I thought it would be fine for the rest to enjoy a meal together. My parents, William, and Jennifer. That's what I thought. My parents and William didn't try to stop me, but Jennifer was different. As I was about to leave, she stopped me. Hey, why don't we exchange contact information? We're going to be sisters-in-law, after all. But, come on, let's get going, Jennifer said cheerfully. For some reason, her smile sent chills down my spine. I had a bad feeling about her, but I couldn't refuse in that atmosphere. Okay, I'll go get my cell phone, I said, just wanting to get it over with quickly. I could always brush her off if she contacted me. Thinking this, I went to get my cell phone. Jennifer then smirked unpleasantly. Since we're here, let's go together. Show me your room, will you? Okay. I took Jennifer to my room. Looking around, Jennifer said, So this is your room. You're a recluse here, aren't you? A recluse, yes. Just staying in your room, unemployed, isn't that right? I instinctively braced myself against such a spiteful person. Then laughing, Jennifer said, What, you're on guard against me? Did you hate being called unemployed that much? Of course, I'm not unemployed. Home-based work isn't a real job. You can't make a living that way. I can. Yeah, as long as someone supports you. Supporting me, thinking you're a full-fledged adult with just a small income. Don't make me laugh. How much I earn is none of your business. It matters to me. Having an unmarried, unemployed sister-in-law is embarrassing. I am single, but I'm not unemployed. Oh right, you do home-based work. Sorry, I'm forgetful, Jennifer said, completely looking down on me. It was clear she didn't consider remote work a real job and just wanted to tease me and be alone with me. That's all I understand, I said, glaring at her. visibly annoyed. Looking at me like that won't change the reality. If you're upset, find a real job. I am working. You're such an annoying child. If you weren't here, I could have lived in this house. Jennifer's spiteful words were unbearable. She could visit, but she couldn't force me out because this was my house. Yet unaware of this, Jennifer frequently came over and whispered to me to leave when my parents and William weren't around. It was intolerable. Can't she just stop? I grumbled to myself. Today, it finally happened. Jennifer silently entered the house and outright told me to leave. That was the last straw for me. I won't leave, and don't enter the house without permission. What? An unemployed person telling me off. I'm not calling you a nuisance, I'm saying what you're doing is unreasonable. Shut up. Be quiet for once. Jennifer headed upstairs. I hurried after her and found her in my room. What are you doing? This is my room, I yelled. But Jennifer ignored me. Looking around my room, she said, "This is perfect. There's a computer and it's spacious. Better suited for me than you. Get out of my room." Shut up. Unemployed. You don't deserve it, so I'll take it. What? No way. Get out. Somehow, I managed to push Jennifer out of my room, then forcibly dragged her out of the house. I was surprised by my own strength. Realizing I was playing with fire, I quickly called William. Despite being at work, he answered. What's up, Mary? Did something happen? William, actually. I explained how Jennifer had entered the house on her own and demeaned me all this time. William was furious. What? To my dear sister? I can't forgive this. Okay, I'll talk to her. Thanks, William, I said, feeling relieved. After thanking him, I hung up. However, I knew I couldn't always rely on William. Pondering my next move, I decided to call my colleague James. James, a bit older than me and a college graduate, had joined our startup with extensive experience from working at a general company. I often consulted him when in trouble. James, it's not about work. I have a personal issue. What's wrong? I discussed Jennifer's actions with James. He was as angry as if it were his own issue. That's wrong of Jennifer. You're not at fault, Mary. Right? Yeah. But I haven't figured out any countermeasures. Then I'll tell you a good strategy. It's this. James shared a plan with me. It was indeed an interesting strategy, one that would surely teach Jennifer a lesson if successful. But there was one problem. Won't this trouble you, James? Don't worry about me. Just go ahead and try it. Thank you. I decided to execute James' plan immediately. I contacted a certain place and began implementing the countermeasures. Months passed and Jennifer's attacks on me ceased, probably due to William's scolding. I hoped it would stay this way. I was slightly relieved. However, the world isn't always so kind. A few days later, Jennifer called me. Can I come over tomorrow? It's okay if I call before coming, right? Her tone was deliberately unpleasant. Still, if Jennifer came, there was a high chance of executing James' plan. Reluctantly, I agreed. I pretended to agree. The next day, Jennifer arrived at the house and immediately asked, "Are your parents here?" "They're not. They're on a trip." "Oh, that's perfect." Jennifer brought a large bag into the house. "What is that?" "My clothes and various things." "Are you planning to stay here?" "Not just staying. I'm moving in, so you should leave your eyes or." It finally happened. With that in mind, I quietly nodded. Understood. You're complying? Wait, you understand? Yes, I'll leave. I suddenly became obedient. I thought about it. You are William's wife. I owe a lot to William, I said with a solemn demeanor. Jennifer started to smile unpleasantly. Finally, you understand. Now get out, useless, unemployed. Okay, I immediately went upstairs. Actually, per James's instructions, my belongings were already packed, and I had a place to move to. In other words, everything was going according to James' plan. I called the moving company and returned to the living room where Jennifer was relaxing on the sofa. You're fast. Well, a reclusive unemployed wouldn't have much to move, I guess. Although I wanted to retort, I didn't. I'm leaving now. The movers will come later for my things. Yeah, and please, don't regret this. Regret? As if I felt refreshed without a recluse around. Leaving Jennifer's mocking laughter behind, I left the house. Then I contacted my parents. Dad, are you enjoying the trip? Yeah, I'm really happy. What's up? I'm glad. Actually, I told them about Jennifer's visit to the house. I explained the reason for the sudden trip and James' strategy to my parents, asking them to act accordingly. My parents readily agreed, largely due to the description of Jennifer's unreasonable behavior. This will work out well. She'll regret it, I muttered to myself as I headed to my new home. A few days after moving, the end of the month was approaching, and I was excited. Any time now, Jennifer should contact me. I waited for the call, and then it came. The phone rang, and as soon as I answered, Jennifer yelled, "What's the meaning of this?" "What's wrong, Jennifer? Why do I have to leave?" "You don't have to leave, just pay the rent." "Rent? This house is our family home, isn't it?" "It was, but I've sold it." "You sold it. Why do you get to decide that?" "Because it was my house." "Your house?" "Yes, that house was." I'd explained about starting an IT company with my colleagues and working there. William must have told her too, but since Jennifer looked down on me, I assumed she hadn't listened. So, I explained it all from the beginning. Shocked, Jennifer asked, "So you really sold this house?" "Yes. Are you familiar with leaseback?" "What's that?" Leaseback is a system where you sell your home to a company and then rent it to continue living there. It has benefits like paying off loans with the sale proceeds. I used that leaseback. I sold the house and land I bought, then stopped paying rent after the contract ended. When Jennifer arrived, that meant she couldn't continue living there unless she signed a new contract herself. But Jennifer, who relied on William, wouldn't be able to pay the rent herself, and I doubted she would want to live there with William after dragging me out. In short, Jennifer would have nowhere to live. "Remember this after playing your games," I said, unable to help but laugh at her empty threat. It was entirely her fault. If she hadn't looked down on me, she could have had a happy married life. It's a pointless person. She'll probably end up divorced from William, and I won't have to see her again, I thought. But it was that evening when James called me. "Mary, something terrible has happened. Can you contact your brother right away? He should be finishing work soon so I can tell him." James spoke rapidly about various things, essentially wanting me and William to come to his house, curious. I contacted William and then headed to James' place. When I arrived, there was a commotion outside James's apartment. Many police officers were there and neighbors had gathered to see what was happening. "James, what happened?" I approached James, who was in the middle of the commotion. "Actually, some weird woman tried to take my laptop. Here's what happened," James told me. During a break at work while he was taking a shower, he heard a strange noise and peeked into his room. There, a woman was rummaging through his belongings, apparently trying to take his laptop. Of course, James immediately confronted her. As soon as he shouted, the woman got startled and ran away, but she tried to escape through a window, fell, and lost consciousness. That woman was Jennifer, and she was arrested by the police for breaking and entering. However, Jennifer insisted, "This is my sister's room," and wouldn't back down, causing the commotion. "This isn't your room, right?" the police asked. Of course, it wasn't my room, but I wondered why Jennifer thought it was. When I asked her, Jennifer said to me, "It's your room? I sent your belongings here." My belongings? I heard it from the movers. When Jennifer was at the house, I had called the movers and left her there. But as per James' instructions, my belongings were first sent to his room and then forwarded to my new home. Unaware of this, Jennifer assumed the delivery address was where I moved to. But that doesn't justify breaking and entering, does it? "It's your fault." Jennifer's excuse was this. When I left the house, I had all furniture and appliances taken by the movers. However, Jennifer apparently thought something would be left behind. Her plan was to sell the leftovers and use the money for living expenses, but that plan failed. She thought she could still manage if the house was there, but then she learned she couldn't live there anymore. In retaliation, she planned to sell my laptop for cash. She intended to enter my house but ended up in James's room instead. That was the real story. "It's your fault, remember this?" Jennifer continued to shout such things. In the end, Jennifer and William got divorced. William demanded compensation from Jennifer. However, there was no way Jennifer could pay it because she had debts. She wanted to take over our house, sell its contents for money to pay off her debts. Anyway, Jennifer is in prison now, unable to do anything. And her parents ended up paying the compensation on her behalf. Because of Jennifer's incident, I've come to rely on James more than ever. I might not have been able to do anything without him. That's when I realized something. I'm in love with James. Now that I've realized this, I've started to make strong advances towards James.